What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're pumped. This is a fun time of year. It's cooler outside. It's down to some pretty serious football. We got Thanksgiving next week. This is the week. This is the time of year that we miss in the summer when we're like, man, I would do anything to watch some football right about now. These are the days we miss. This Sunday is one of those days. The Dallas Cowboys getting set to visit the Minnesota Vikings, of course, this particular Sunday, November 20th, in case you were unaware. The game starts at 3:25 p.m. Central Time, so you get the noon hour to watch all your fantasy players on the Red Zone channel, and then we sit down, we get locked in, and we're ready for business. The game's on CBS. It is Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson on the call, and I got to be honest with you, I don't think it's that. I'm not as worried as I think a lot of Cowboys fans are. I'm going to talk about here how the tide is kind of setting itself up to turn for the Cowboys, and I think it starts on Sunday. I understand that the Minnesota Vikings are 8-1. I understand that the Minnesota Vikings beat the Buffalo Bills last week. I understand that the Dallas Cowboys lost last week, and I understand that the Dallas Cowboys lost to the Green Bay Packers. I understand that we are pissed off, we're upset, and I understand that when we lose, emotions run a little bit higher, right? It feels like the lower lows are more dramatic than the higher highs. You get what I'm saying? And so I don't think you have to butterfly effect things all too much to kind of change the way that this game would look on paper. The Cowboys blew a 14-point lead, as we all know, and it was unfortunate, but that's kind of hard to do, right? They hadn't done it in 195 tries, a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, but lo and behold, they did. And the Minnesota Vikings came back from a 17-point deficit against a very good team in the Buffalo Bills. And credit to them. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm not trying to say there's some sort of paper tiger. I believe in the Vikings. If you listen to me on the SB Nation NFL show at the beginning of this season, before any football started, I picked the Vikings to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. I picked Kirk Cousins to win MVP before Michael Irvin made it, kind of a meme. And so I do believe in them, although, the way the Vikings season has gone is definitely a little bit interesting. You can argue that they've been the benefit of some weird things, some call it luck, call it good fortune, call it whatever you want. And, Sunday, you don't mount a 17-point comeback because you're great, right? It takes some sort of collapse on the other side of that. And just the way I think we all feel about the Green Bay Packers, it's not like the Packers were on fire and overcame this 14-point deficit. It also took the Cowboys kind of getting in their own way. It's a mixture and a combination of things. That's what makes football so wonderful to think about. And I think that that's exemplified in the more, the deeper data of this game, the deeper data of who the Cowboys are, of who the Vikings are. I know a lot of people were surprised when initial opening lines came out for this game and Dallas was favored. It's kind of bounced around a little bit. Depends where you look. You can get the Cowboys 2.5, 2, 1, 1.5, whatever the case may be. Either way, they're favored. But again, I think the fact that odds makers and the people out in the desert believe that Dallas is the favorite, that Dallas should win this game, I think tells you a lot. I think DVOA tells you a lot. If we look at the Dallas Cowboys, and this is obviously entering week 11, the Dallas Cowboys currently rank 4th in overall team DVOA by Football Outsiders. They rank 12th offensively. They rank 2nd defensively. I know things feel bad, but they still rank 2nd on the defensive side of the ball. And they rank 3rd on special teams, and that's without Kevontae Turpin taking one back to the house all throughout this year so far. So take a look at that. 4th overall, 12th on offense, and the arrow's pointing up on offense. The arrow, you could argue, is kind of pointing down a little bit on defense right now, but whatever. 12th on offense, 2nd on defense, 3rd on special teams. Where do the Minnesota Vikings rank? Well, 17th overall. 17th by DVOA standards. The Minnesota Vikings are a top, or not top, they are a bottom half football team. The top half would be 16. So DVOA does not believe in the Vikings and who they are this season. They have the 17th ranked offense by DVOA. I'll put the Cowboys up here. Cowboys are 12th offensively in DVOA, and we're all sitting here like, well, they haven't really found themselves. Dak missed all that time. Zeke was out the last couple of games, whatever the case may be. The Vikings have not had that issue, and they are 17th on the offensive side of the ball. They are 19th defensively, and they rank 25th in special teams. And so I didn't come here to sit and talk trash about the Vikings. That's not the point. I respect them greatly. That's why I wanted to be honest about the fact that I picked them to win the Super Bowl. I do think they are one of the better teams in the NFL, but I think the way they've gotten to 8-1 is a little bit hollow. In fact, I think the way they won last week was a little bit hollow. Again, I mentioned they overcame a 17-point drought, and one of the ingredients involved in that was a heroic, unbelievable, impossible catch that Justin Jefferson made on 4th and 18. I mean, this was a really improbable, unlikely thing. And so I don't say all this to say that the Cowboys are going to show up to Minnesota on Sunday afternoon and just rout the Vikings, but I do think that they're going to win very handily. I do think the Cowboys are going to prevail. I think the Cowboys offense, this is an offense that while it had some miscues, this Cowboys offense had some notable miscues last week. Think about this for a second. DeMarcus Lawrence, and we'll see what his status is, obviously, as the week continues to unfold. Make sure to stay tuned to bloggingtheboys.com. Follow us on social media. DeMarcus Lawrence sacked Aaron Rodgers, caused a fumble, and the Cowboys recovered it at the Green Bay 10-yard line. Do you know how many points they got off of that takeaway? Do you know how many points the Cowboys generated from that turnover? The answer is a goose egg, 0. The Cowboys got 0 points from that. In fact, the Packers wound up with 7 points because they intercepted Dak Prescott and went down and scored themselves. But my point is, the Cowboys didn't score there. That's a really low probability thing, right? To have that be a 14-point swing. And they still scored 28 points. So again, I'm not trying to if and this, that, or whatever, but it is not difficult to sort of rewrite the last week of history and make this game look a lot different than it kind of looks in this particular moment. And I do think that that is reflected in the odds, DVOA, things like that. So I've got the Cowboys winning on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, and I think you do too. And I want to have this conversation now. That's why this is kind of a half Vikings talk, half this talk, because I know that this coming week is a big week. It's a fun week. It's a stressful week for a lot of people because it's Thanksgiving. And maybe you're going to be traveling. Maybe you're going to have family come over. So I don't know how much we're going to see each other, you and I. It's always, again, you get behind on shows, right? Like stuff happens when you're dealing with all this kind of stuff. We're used to it, right? We go through it every year with the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving, and that's kind of part of our holiday tradition. If you are a Cowboys fan, if you're not, I don't know how you wound up here, but please do subscribe to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. And so by this time next week, I'm recording this video on Thursday, November 17th at 2:34 p.m. Central Time. That's the time it is on my computer screen, all right? By this time next week, the Dallas Cowboys will have played 2 games, right? Because you're probably going to watch this Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, maybe Friday, maybe over the weekend, whatever. You get the point. By next Thursday night, by Thanksgiving night, when you are on your 3rd serving of pecan pie, get a scoop of vanilla ice cream. And then you know what you got to do? Throw the pie in the microwave for like 7, 10, 11 seconds for Micah Parsons. Throw the pie in, then put the scoop of ice cream on. Wait a minute, and it'll be perfect. All right, trust me. Anyway, by this time next week, the Cowboys will have played 2 games. And I recognize that they look intimidating. I recognize that the Cowboys are going to play the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings and the probably 8-2 New York Giants. In case you don't know, the Giants host the Detroit Lions on Sunday afternoon. So that sounds crazy, right? That sounds tough. That sounds very difficult. Oh my gosh, we got these 2 8-win teams the Cowboys have to beat. I think they're going to do it. I mean, I already outlined why I think the Cowboys are going to beat the Vikings, and Cowboys already beat the Giants this year, and they did so with Cooper Rush, and they did that, no disrespect intended to Cooper Rush, and they did so on the road. This game is at home with Dak Prescott wearing those glorious throwback uniforms. I think by next Thursday night, I think by next Friday morning, Friday afternoon, whenever you're doing your shopping, getting your brand new 95-inch television screen to watch the rest of the Cowboys season on, I think by the time you're doing that shopping, I think the Cowboys are going to be 8-3. I really do. And that is something that I don't think we're putting enough stock into. That's why I wanted to make this video. What are you talking about, RJ? What's going on? What's happening? What is the purpose of this conversation? All right. We're at a very interesting time. All right. There are 6 games remaining for the Dallas Cowboys after this particular game. Right. It's kind of the way this thing, the whole thing works. Of their 6 games remaining after this stretch, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, so I'll try to go slowly. After the Cowboys play the Vikings and the Giants, they will have 6 games left. 4 of those games are against the AFC South. This is something I've been talking about because it's important. The Cowboys are the only team in the NFC East so far that has yet to play an AFC South game. At least, one game has been played by everybody else in the division to this point. The AFC South, not great, right? So I'm not saying that's 4 slam dunk wins, but you like those odds, right? You like those odds if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, and that's an important thing. Okay, what does that have to do with all of this? All right, let's play this out. And I don't mean to just totally disrespect the Washington Commanders. I think that they're definitely in play. They're kind of a cute potential playoff team here, but we're talking about the NFC East title. And the reason we're having this conversation is because by this time, 2 weeks from now, actually by next Sunday night, next Sunday is going to be awesome, right? Especially if it goes the way I'm saying, right? If the Cowboys are 8-3, if they've won 2 in a row, all the leftovers will be out of your fridge by that point in time, right? By next Sunday, you're going to get to sit down, watch Red Zone all day long and watch all your fantasy teams, whatever. Again, the Cowboys are going to have won 2 games in a row. Life's going to be pretty sweet for an 8-3 team. And that night, next Sunday night, The Philadelphia Eagles play in primetime. They host the Green Bay Packers. That's right. Now, I don't think any of us think the Packers are that great based off of this past Sunday, but they are the Packers. And I'm recording this video for full context. I said the time before tonight's game, before Thursday Night Football. It is worth mentioning that the Green Bay Packers may win this game, probably will win this game. I'm picking them to beat the Titans. They will have won 2 in a row, both of those games at home, so they haven't had to travel in a good minute, and they will be coming off of the mini bye. So the Philadelphia Eagles are going to get a very well-rested, potentially feeling really good about themselves Green Bay Packers team. Tell me this isn't possible. I want you to, wherever you're at, just scream it at the screen or the phone or the tablet or the television, whatever you're watching this on. Tell me this isn't possible. A couple of things. 4 things. It's really just 4 things. The Dallas Cowboys beat the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. Obviously, we don't want that to happen, but let's assume it's probably going to happen, right? So that happens. The New York Giants beat the Detroit Lions on Sunday. That really doesn't matter, but, whatever. We won't just pretend I didn't say that. The Dallas Cowboys beat the New York Giants on Thanksgiving Day. And then the Green Bay Packers beat the Philadelphia Eagles next Sunday night. Tell me that's impossible. Tell me it's ridiculous. Tell me I'm being ridiculous, because you can't. You can't tell me it's ridiculous to say that the Cowboys win their next 2 games and that the Eagles lose to the Green Bay Packers. All right, now why are we spending so much time obsessing about this? Because of the teams involved. Obviously, really the teams being the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Vikings. All right. If the Cowboys beat the Vikings, they establish a tiebreaker over them. Why is that important? Well, we obviously want the Cowboys to do as well as possible, which means we want the Cowboys to win the NFC East, which means we even want the Cowboys, if they can, to secure the number 1 seed in the NFC. Now, right now, as things currently stand, all right, again, today, Thursday, November 17th, I already figured out the date, 5:38 has the Philadelphia Eagles leading the way in the NFC East with a 64% chance of winning the division. But that can change significantly. Again, let's say these things happen. Let's say that Dallas beats Minnesota and that Dallas beats New York and that Philadelphia loses next Sunday to the Green Bay Packers. Even if they win this week against the Indianapolis Colts, that would give the Eagles 2 losses on the season, and the Cowboys would have 3 losses, obviously, at that point, because they have 3 now. We're talking about winning 2 more games. If that were to happen, the Dallas Cowboys would become the favorite to win the NFC East. Yeah, I'm serious. I'm totally serious. The Cowboys would be 8-3 at that point in time, and the Philadelphia Eagles would be 9-2. How is that possible, RJ? What are you talking about? I don't totally understand. If the Eagles lose 1 more game, and obviously the Packers qualifies as that. If the Eagles lose 1 more game, then the Cowboys, assuming they don't lose any more, and we're obviously assuming they win their next 2 games, then the Cowboys control their own destiny against the Eagles. And the reason for that, we talked about this earlier this week, but the fact that the Eagles lost on Monday night, not just in general, but lost within the division. The immediate tiebreaker as far as establishing a division champion is your record within the division. The Eagles already have 1 loss in the NFC East. So do the Cowboys. Again, that loss obviously coming against the Eagles. But if the Cowboys beat the Eagles on Christmas Eve, that would give the Eagles 2 losses within the division, something that the Cowboys would not conceivably have at that point in time. So Dallas would overtake the Eagles with that tiebreaker. I'm not making this up. Go play around with the odds yourself on 538.com. If the Cowboys win their next 2 games on Sunday at Minnesota and then on Thanksgiving Day against the New York Giants, and then if next Sunday the Green Bay Packers help us out, and I know that feels icky, but if the Green Bay Packers help us out and beat the Philadelphia Eagles, then the odds shift, and the Cowboys, with a 50% likelihood of winning the division, become the favorites to win the NFC East. Now, why is this important? Because it would also set the Cowboys up to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. If I asked you right now, today, we've established it's Thursday, November 17th. Now it's 2:41 p.m. Central Time. If I asked you today, who do you think is going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC? You would probably say the Eagles, right? Well, the Eagles are leading the NFC East. What if they don't win the NFC East? We just laid out the path for that not happening, right? Then it's the Cowboys, right? And the fact that the Cowboys, the reason the Eagles right now actually are the number 1 seed in the NFC, despite having the same record as the Minnesota Vikings, is because they beat them. Remember, Philly beat Minnesota in week 2 on Monday Night Football. Well, if Dallas beats Minnesota, then they have that tiebreaker over the Vikings as well. So to be very clear here, if the Cowboys beat the Vikings on Sunday afternoon, they still remain 1 game mathematically behind the Vikings. But if the Vikings lose any more games across the rest of the season, then Dallas is tied with them. And Dallas has the tiebreaker for what would be the number 1 seed in the NFC. These are facts. The next 7 to 10 days are going to dramatically, potentially swing the way that the NFC looks. We're going to be sitting here next Sunday night after the Packers beat the Eagles in all, hope, and say, man, this looks nothing the way it did on Thursday, November 17th at 2:43 p.m. Central Standard Time. Things have changed so much. It's because of the fact that the Cowboys play the Vikings, and so that they can take that tiebreaker. And then again, the fact that the Cowboys can overtake the Giants on Thanksgiving Day. If the Giants win on Sunday against Detroit and then Dallas beats them, they're both 8-3, but the Cowboys have the tiebreaker. So they surpass New York for second place in the division. Even if Philadelphia does lose against the Green Bay Packers, they will still be first place in the NFC East. However, they will not be the favorite because the Cowboys will control their own destiny. Well, what does this all mean, RJ? The Cowboys could still lose, right? Like, even if all this happens, that's still only the end of week 12. All right, dude, there's 18 weeks in the regular season. I don't trust this Cowboys team. They're probably going to lose another game. Let's take a look. The 3 teams that we're focusing on here, and no offense to the Commanders or the Giants, because we're not really giving the Giants any credit, but if the Giants lose to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, their odds of winning the division are pretty far out the window. I mean, they'll still be a playoff team, but it's going to be very difficult for them to win the NFC East at that point in time. Let's take a look at the Minnesota Vikings schedule, because we would need them to lose at least one more game. So the Vikings, we're giving them a loss, obviously, against the Cowboys this Sunday afternoon. That New England game is actually Sunday night, or not the Sunday Night Football. It's actually the night game on Thanksgiving Day. It is the Sunday Night Football crew, but so they will be playing on Thanksgiving as well. But so they have the Cowboys. So if we believe that the Cowboys are going to beat the Vikings, all we need is one more loss. That's it. One more loss, assuming things go the Cowboys' way we want them to go. One more Vikings loss gives Dallas the advantage. Do you not think it's impossible, or do you think it's impossible that Minnesota could lose one of these games? I think they're beating the Patriots. Patriots aren't that great. The Jets, the Lions, the Lions played them really tough the first matchup, but I think they still probably win that game. Indianapolis stinks, but the Giants, the Packers, the Bears, it's very, very possible that the Vikings, who have played a little bit above expectation to this point, again, we put their DVOA rankings right here. It's very possible that this team loses one of these games after the Cowboys. Okay. So what about the Eagles? Even if the Eagles don't lose to the Packers, it is very likely that they lose one of these games. I don't think they're losing to the Colts. If that happens, this conversation becomes all the more fun, but it probably isn't going to happen. They have the Packers next Sunday night as outlined, then the Titans, and then 3 road games in a row. The New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, and the Cowboys on Christmas Eve. Obviously, that game is a requirement to have with regards to this race. The Saints, the Giants, to wrap it all up. It's there. It's very, and again, all we need is one loss here by the Eagles that is against a non-Cowboys team. If Philadelphia loses any of these games, and obviously if the Cowboys beat them, that gives Dallas total, complete control of their own destiny. Because if they win out, if they beat the Eagles, it's theirs. And actually right now, today, I've said this several times, Thursday, November 17th, the New York Giants control their own fate against the Philadelphia Eagles. Why is that the case? As of right now, the Giants only trail the Eagles by 1 game as far as record is concerned. But as you can see, the Giants still play the Eagles twice. So if the Giants swept the Eagles, they totally could take matters into their own hands. But we'll see, obviously, what happens. And again, a loss from the Giants on Thanksgiving Day against us certainly hurts their chances to do so. But all of this ultimately comes back to the Cowboys. And I know we've jumped around Vikings, Eagles, Giants, Commanders, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But it comes down to the Cowboys. I mentioned this, all right? We look at their next 2 games. They look tough, but that's what this next week is. Just get to next Friday, and the whole world opens up. If you get to next Friday, you get through Minnesota and through the Giants. 4 of your final 6 games are against the AFC South. Indianapolis at home, Houston at home, on the road at Jacksonville to start off your road trips in December, not a cold environment whatsoever. Philadelphia at home, at Tennessee, at Washington to wrap this whole thing up. The odds are in their favor. The odds are in their favor. If the Cowboys get to next Friday with an 8-3 record, man, a lot of doors open up. A lot of doors open up. So wanted to make sure you understood that, because I don't know how much we're going to talk. Again, I know you're I don't know who's coming over. I don't want your spouse or significant other to hear me, but whoever's coming over, I know it's a hard situation for you. I know you got to be patient. All right? You got to take a deep breath. All right. I know you love your family, but we got to focus on the Cowboys here. We got to focus together. Let's do it. All of us, let's get to next Thursday night with an 8-3 record. And then we party. Then we have pecan pie together. And not to mention, if Odell Beckham Jr. joins this team, it's going to be a lot of fun. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on TikTok at rj.ochoa. If you want to email me, you can. rj.ochoa at sbnation.com is how you do that. You can always leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to get to those. Also, if I do not speak to you between now and then, I hope you have an incredible, happy, safe, blessed, wonderful Thanksgiving. You mean a lot to us, all of you who choose to consume our content or participate in our content. It is just the coolest thing to all of us at Blogging the Boys that people want to share their Cowboys experience with us. If you do want to share it on Sunday afternoon after the Cowboys beat the Vikings, we'll be live here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel for our live post-game show. You can participate along with the live crowd. You can catch the rewatch at your own convenience, or you can, of course, listen on the Blogging the Boys podcast network. Please make sure to subscribe, and please make sure to have a wonderful day. You know why? Because you deserve it. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. See you next time.